Hi, my name is Sydney Jackson, and today I'm going to be presenting on the desegregation in public schools and talk about the role the Little Rock Nine played in helping such occur. First, I wanted to talk about my image. My image is actually the image pictured above on the left, and the image pictured below it on the right is another image I found on the internet, taken on the same day, just at a different angle. Basic information about my photo. The images on the left are known as the Scream image. In this image, Hazel Bryan Massery, who's 15, is depicted yelling at African American student Elizabeth Eckford. Eckford, also 15 at the time, was a member of the Little Rock Nine, and this photo was taken on September the 4th, 1957. Both young women were students at Little Rock Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas during the integration crisis. Next, I kind of want to talk about what segregation is and why it was kind of going on at the time, as well as why it was occurring in schools. Segregation can be defined as the action or state of setting someone or something apart from others, as well as the enforced separation of different racial groups in a country, community, or establishment. The latter is what I'm kind of going to be talking about throughout this presentation. According to theschoolof education.com, racial segregation in schools was considered the law of the land by the 1950s. So it kind of was already set in stone. And this continued heavily even after laws were put into place, ruling such unconstitutional. Jim Crow laws, in which supported this divide, were still enforced, which could be seen in the separate bathrooms and water fountains for each race. Such segregation in schools and school districts actually affected African American students significantly, being that African American students received less funding and had inadequate supplies as well as staffing. These disparities meant larger educational gaps and differences in opportunities. According to schoolof education.com, one out of every 10 African American students at the time were expected to graduate, as compared to the 4 out of 10 expected to graduate from white schools. So the images that I chose on the right, one of which, the one above, is of a woman holding a sign protesting for great schools for all, and I felt like this was important because it supported the idea of everybody being able to receive the same education regardless of their background. Next, I wanted to talk about desegregation. Desegregation had always been a goal of the civil rights movement, especially the desegregation of public schools. It wasn't until Brown v. Board of Education, 1954, ruled that segregation of African American students in schools was unlawful, that integration had started being implemented. Even then, the implementation of integration in school districts wasn't happening at a desired pace. Hence why the Board of Education actually had a second Board of Education case in 1955. This case pushed the integration to happen at a more deliberate pace, thus the creation of the Little Rock Nine, which challenged the initial ruling. Next I want to talk more about the Little Rock Nine. All the Little Rock Nine members are pictured on the left with their last names. The Little Rock Nine consisted of 9 African American students, all of which enrolled in Little Rock Central High School in Arkansas. The Little Rock Nine are Ernest Green, Minnie Jean Brown, Elizabeth Eckford, Thelma Mothershed, Melba Patillo, Gloria Ray, Terrence Roberts, Jefferson Thomas, and Carlotta Walls. Their enrollment tested the ruling of the Brown v. Board of Education case, which occurred on May 17, 1954, which, as I stated previously, declared segregation public schools to be unconstitutional. Initially, when the Little Rock Nine attempted to enter Central High School's campus on September the 4th, the day of my image, they were turned away by the Arkansas National Guard, who had been called in by the governor of Arkansas, Faubus. Faubus, like many others during this time, disagreed with the idea of integration in schools and integration in general. So, to combat this, Dwight D. Eisenhower personally sent in his federal troops to escort the Little Rock Nine into school and to their classes every day. The Little Rock Nine in Central High School became known as one of the first to integrate, prompting other districts to do so as well. Their courage and actions drew attention to not only themselves but the civil rights movement as well. These brave young students represent the struggle to desegregate public schools as they walked through campus and attended class while being taunted by mobs of white students and segregationists almost every day. Students involved in the Little Rock Nine went on to accomplish great things and were able to obtain great careers, which they might have not been able to had they not been a part of the Little Rock Nine and attended Central High School. Today, a Little Rock Nine Foundation exists to assist students, especially African American students, in achieving their educational goals. So here are some Little Rock Nine images that I thought were important to point out. So some of the images I chose depicted all the Little Rock Nine members together, as well as some images of them at school. So something I wanted to point out in these images is the amount of protection needed to protect all of these 9 students just so they could go to school and receive the same education as white students attending Central High School. I found it astonishing to see that these students needed to be protected by so many men because of how much hate they were expected to receive and would continue receiving throughout the time they spent at Central High School. So next, I wanted to mention this video I had watched titled Little Rock 9, posted on YouTube by Marquette University. I felt like this video was especially significant to my image because in my image you can't really see, you can see, but you can't really hear what is being said to Eckford and what is being said about integration. This video shows that through what the narrator says and specific recordings of the people there during integration happening at Central High School. So, in this video, the narrator explains exactly what was said to Elizabeth Eckford, as he stated that the mob following her directly chanted "Lynch her," as she walked on holding her books and sporting a pair of sunglasses. Some other takeaways from this video were the quotes, "They have no business here." On September the 25th, 1957, 10,000 National Guard troops escorted the Little Rock Nine as they walked bravely past screaming mobs. The video also depicted students holding the Confederate flag as a means of rebelling against integration, championing the idea of segregation. So I felt like the takeaway mentioning the 10,000 National Guards was important, being that I did talk about Eisenhower sending his troops in. I found it surprising that he needed to send in 10,000 National Guard troops to escort 9 people throughout a Central High School or high school so that they could receive education. This just shows how much hate they were receiving at the time just because they wanted a better education and a higher education. So these are my references. Okay, and that would be the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.